Today we're giving you the full rundown of everything you need to know for Paris investing. Now, one important thing to note is Valve went ahead and released an end date for Paris. However, I will say this is not something that's 100% guaranteed, as if we look in the past, they haven't held up to this standard. However, in my opinion, this is very important because we need to make sure we're done investing by that time in case something does happen, although we'll probably get a little bit of a notification ahead of time. SkinSwap is today's sponsor, and they're also sponsoring you with a free bonus for signing up with the first link in the description. They're the premier place for CSGO and Rust skins with a massive trading site and a top-of-the-line marketplace, offering you the most competitive rates out there and a massive 40% bonus when you're using that link in the description. Combine that with their top-of-the-line selling feature with many payout options and their trading feature legitimately taking you just about a minute, and there's no reason not to sign up with that first link in the description. Now, the first thing we need to determine is if Paris is going to explode or implode upon the removal of the sale. We can look at two different examples here. If we want to look at Stockholm, we can obviously see that the capsules exploded right away once the sale was removed. That's just because not enough people invested into them compared to the demand that they had when removed. However, we can also compare that to Antwerp, where we can see the complete opposite happening, where there was just so much demand for people to invest into it, and once they were finally removed, the demand just diminished. And we can see that quite obviously when we look at any Antwerp statistic and see that the capsules dropped potentially 30% after they were removed. And we want to make sure and help understand which is going to be the best and most optimal for Paris. Now, there's not a ton of information. I will say it's actually looking quite positive for Paris that Valve went ahead and updated their currencies, because what that did is people stopped listing mass amounts of these on the market. This stopped the people from reselling capsules, which is just another way a ton of capsules get added into the overall supply. Even though the quantity listed on the market does seem rather high, it can actually be a little bit higher. If we want to look at Antwerp, we can see that it was significantly higher then compared to what we're seeing for Paris capsules now. Now, I want to make it very clear that market listings are not a good indicator by any means. However, they are an indicator, and when we don't have a lot of information, there's something we kind of have to rely on at least a little bit. Looking at Antwerp here, we can see that the most listed capsule and autograph capsule were the two that actually ended up performing the best out of all of the capsules, looking at the Legends and the Contenders autograph capsule here. This shows that although they did have the most listings, they actually did end up being the most beneficial. And we can look at some of the ones with the lowest there, such as the Legends autograph capsule, and we can see that it performed relatively average to slightly below average. And I say this to make sure you're not putting too much emphasis into the market listings. Ever since we saw what happened with the Stockholm Challengers capsule, where that one was underlisted and then it absolutely exploded, I think we've just overall as a community seen way too much weight put onto this one statistic, which really isn't that relevant. Now, you're free to invest into whatever Paris investment you would like. Personally, I would say there's two bad investments though, the first of which is a souvenir package. This one is going to be a little bit different than the other one. It's already quite expensive, but the truth is souvenir package growth is almost identical to general market hype. Why would you go for something that's just matching the general market hype? We're looking for something that would outperform it, at least in my opinion. The other one is going to be the pass. This one's just way too expensive for you to turn an actual decent ROI percentage-wise. Now, talking about the best capsule investment, I've got a full video, but the rundown is basically this. When we looked at the data for Antwerp, we saw a very significant trend form, and that's the fact that the regular team logo capsules did significantly better than the autograph capsules. Therefore, we're going to be catering our investment towards those team logo capsules. In my opinion, I like the Challengers and the Contenders the most, because if we want to look at the Antwerp Legends, the capsule that performed the best for Antwerp, we can see here that the Cloud9 performed the best all across the board. And when we look at the Paris Contenders and the Paris Challengers, we can see this exact same trend. I don't know how much value this trend holds, but it's also something that can be seen inside of the Stockholm Challengers capsule, the capsule that did the best for Stockholm. Now, talking about our data set from Antwerp, there was actually one outlier, and that was the autograph capsule that contained the Rocks Hollow. That one did about on par with the rest of the team logo capsules, and therefore I would say if you're wanting for an autograph capsule, I would go with the Paris Contenders autograph capsule, as it contains 3 really high value hollows, which are exactly what you're looking for in a good investment. Now, talking about application rates, which have been a really hot topic for Paris, I was able to come across this image right here, and I want to break it down. Now, looking at the purple section here, this one's a little bit deceiving, because even though Paris looks like it's doing really bad, in my opinion, it's not doing that bad, because if we want to look at Antwerp, it was the first glitter, and if we want to look at Stockholm, this was the Stockholm Hollow rarity, meaning it was much more desirable than the current Paris glitter. glitters. And then looking down here at the gold application rate, if we want to look at the actual value golds provide to the overall ROI, in my opinion, I'm not really too concerned with golds, and honestly, I think it looks right about where it should be. The biggest one I want to focus in on is the pink sticker value application, and I still think it's looking relatively decent, not on track with what we saw with Antwerp, but at the same time, Antwerp holos were extremely cheap, which is why they turned into be such profitable investments, which is not what we've seen here with Paris. In my opinion, although this data looks like it's really bad for Paris, most of it can be chalked up to the fact that Paris is really expensive for stickers, and it still has such a very high ROI. Now, talking about the best stickers to invest, I personally am not going to be picking up any. I will say if you're looking for stickers, look for hidden gems. If we want to talk about the best stickers to invest into over the past couple of years, the Mouse Holo from Stockholm returned a 15,000% ROI because it was so cheap in the beginning. A lot of great stickers start off super cheap. Buying into the stickers that are already quite expensive is not going to be the most optimal way to invest for most people, at least in my opinion. Buying into stickers that are already extremely expensive with no clear reason as to why is a really easy way to go ahead and get burned and lose 30-50% of your value. I personally like to go for a low risk investing strategy, and looking at all of the current holos and even some of the glitters, these are not included in my current low risk. I think these have way more volatility than a lot of people realize. And something not to forget as well is even though Valve went ahead and updated their currency exchange rates, these are always constantly changing, and almost all of the ones that they put above 25 cents in their change are now once again below that, sitting at about 24 cents. It's not something that's major, but it's something that could impact it if you think the sale is going to go on for a month or longer from the current point we're at. And the last piece of information you should obviously know is the fact that the ROIs are still sitting very high, obviously below 100%, but high 90s is currently the best thing to open in pretty much the entirety of CSGO. Now coming to the final answer you've been looking for, should you honestly buy Paris? And in my personal opinion, I'm going to be buying Paris. However, I will say I don't think that I've 100% fairly represented the risk that comes with it, which is what I've tried to showcase a little bit more in today's video. If we want to look at Paris, right now Paris has zero competition all across the board, and that's very likely going to change when CS2 comes out, whether you think Paris is going to continue into CS2 or not. Paris is going to have a tough time growing when we have potentially an operation going on or even a brand new case or new content. And that's something I want to make 100% clear is Paris right now has zero competition all across the board. However, in my personal opinion, I still think Paris has a large chance of success. That's just because we're not going to see another major for about 7 months. And when we look at what happened to Berlin when there was no major, we can see that there was a crazy high peak. And right now Paris is going to be the cheapest option for crafting for a significant amount of time. Therefore, I do still think that Paris has a very strong chance of success. However, I don't want to represent it as 100% guaranteed or anything like that. But that's all I got. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.